Okay, Assalamu alaikum. Bismillah, walhamdulillah, wa salatu wassalamu ala rasulillahi wa ala alihi wa ashabihi ajma'een. Welcome home, everybody. It's good to see you, alhamdulillah. For those who are the 30 and up regulars, this is the first time that we've had our program in a few weeks, so it's nice, alhamdulillah, to see everybody again. We're actually just going to be finishing up the book that we've been reading for quite a while now. This book is a recipe book or a pathway by a great scholar. His name is Abdullah ibn Mubarak, and he wrote a book called Kitab al-Zuhud wal-Raqa'iq, the book on how to become a person that is not materially attached or obsessed with things in the world. And he also included many different stories and narrations that are meant to give the heart perspective and soften the heart, as they say. And he covers a variety of topics, and we've gone through, alhamdulillah, many of them. And tonight we're going to do one that is heavy, right? Heavier, but it's a good topic to talk about, especially as this is sort of like the concluding portion of this text. So one of the challenges of living in the world is that you're not alone. You are a creature of community, and as such, you take on the traits and you take on the personality, characteristics of people that you spend time with, right? The Prophet ﷺ, he talked about being really, really careful about being a person who chooses good friends, making sure that you're also a good friend to other people, right? You can't just, you can't complain that you don't have good friends, but then you're not also a good friend. And so when it comes to choosing companions, there's a process, and everybody here, we're old enough to have gone through that process of realizing who we want to spend time with, right? But the hard part is not the voluntary companionship. The hard part is the involuntary companionship, i.e. the family. And many of the questions and many of the queries that are received by imams worldwide have to do with managing relationships at home. Because if you have a friend that you no longer get along with, it's easy, right? You just tell them okay, that was great. It was a great run, and take care. Hope for the best for you, and, salam alaikum. But you can't do that, or you shouldn't do that to people that are members of your household. There's a deeper connection. There's more responsibility. There's more accountability. I see some people smiling, which means that maybe you do say ma'asalama to people in your house too. So Abdullah ibn Mubarak, he wrote a chapter, and he wrote a chapter which is called the piety of the home and the righteousness of the household. And he effectively, by including this chapter in this book, is giving the message that a person cannot be pious to the world around them, but somehow fall short in their relationships with their family. And this is a really challenging topic to talk about, because all of us, we take care of course, as best we can, our image, our reputation, etc. But your family, those are the people who see who you really are. Those are the people who know you, and they know you in your weak moments. They know you in the times where you don't have the energy to preserve your image and things like that. They've seen you maybe when you're most upset. And these are really those defining relationships, right? So it's challenging, but there's also a great opportunity, which is that if you can be a good person with your family, then you're really a good person, right? It's one of those tests where if you can be the virtuous person at home, then you know that your virtue is genuine and real, right? Anybody can hold the door open for a stranger, but how many of us hold the door open for our siblings, right? Anybody can be kind and forgiving to their coworker, but can you forgive your spouse? I know many people that have great relationships with their friends, but they haven't spoken to their, spouse, or they haven't spoken to their parents, et cetera, et cetera. So all of these are really, really heavy to read and to think about, because you instantly start putting yourself in the situation of man, I have a lot of work to do. But really, ultimately, that's the whole point, right? If we come here to these gatherings and we don't feel like there's any change that needs to happen, then I don't know if there's really any value to these gatherings, right? Obviously, there's supposed to be some sense of inspiration and appreciation, but everybody should leave the halaqat where we come together for Allah. Everybody should leave with some level of aspiration to change, whether it's yourself or something else, okay? So let's go ahead and read. So he begins with the narration of Zuhri, where he says that Umar ibn Khattab, radiallahu an, he recited the verse, إِنَّ الَّذِينَ قَالُوا رَبُّنَا اللَّهُ ثُمَّ اسْتَقَامُوا. He said the verse where he quoted the famous verse from Surah Fussilat, where Allah describes the virtue and the blessing of the person who is, number one, they have a relationship with Allah. إِنَّ الَّذِينَ قَالُوا رَبُّنَا اللَّهُ. Those people who say, my Lord is Allah, ثُمَّ اسْتَقَامُوا, and they are like really, really persistent on it. They're really, really strong on that. Allah Ta'ala continues, تَتَنَزَّلُ عَلَيْهِمُ الْمَلَائِكَةِ, that the angels descend upon that person and they tell that person, don't fear, don't grieve, right? This is one of the blessings of that person. But how did Omar define this category of people? He explained, right? This is the science of tafsir, by the way. Tafsir is when you have the Prophet ﷺ, or you have the students of the Prophet ﷺ, so his companions, those who heard from him directly. They say that, you know what, this verse was revealed, and when it was revealed, this is the context under which it was revealed by. So if anybody in here, for example, has been somewhere, has anyone here been to a city outside of Dallas? Let's be honest, nobody in this room is actually from Dallas. All right, no, I'm joking, right? Has anyone here been to like a place? Anyone recently, over the summer, you traveled? Yeah, so you've been somewhere, maybe you're familiar with somewhere, and you know certain nuances, right? Oh, there's a really, really good restaurant. Where is it? You don't know the street. You don't know the cross street. Like, you don't know that intersection. You just know, like, okay, it's right here. As soon as you see this, take a left and it's there. That context knowledge is exactly how the Sahaba knew the Quran. Does that make sense? So when they heard a verse, they were like, I remember when this was revealed. It was right when this happened, and then Allah sent that verse to the Prophet ﷺ, and it fixed exactly that problem we had, or that question we didn't know the answer to. It gave us the answer. That's how intimately close they were with the Quran. So whenever you hear like, oh, Omar said this about this verse, he's not just like making something up. He's saying, oh, this was dealing with this particular issue. So when a verse that Allah, it's very well known, when a verse that Allah has sent, which is talking about piety, and is talking about people who have strength and consistency in their faith, and they are such that the angels will come down at the time of their departure and will give them the glad tidings and the good news of paradise, and they should have no fear. All of us are hoping to be those people, right? Like, we hear this description, we're like, Ya Rab, please let us be those people. Omar, he describes that person in the Ladina Qalu, Al-Ladina is who? He said, they are those people that they were upright, and they were so upright that they were upright even in their personal relationships, that they took care of their family. And he actually describes, and he says something very interesting. He says, يَرُوغُ رُغَانَ الثَّعْلَبِ or الثَّعْلَبِ. He says that these people, in their behavior, in their actions, they were as persistent as the fox. Okay, so when you think of, for example, like a fox who's hunting a small animal, the fox is not like a clumsy animal. It's a very slick, sly animal, right? They say sly fox. The fox is the one that is so clever in its hunting. They don't just give up. They don't just stop when something becomes difficult, right? They find a way to catch their prey, right? Now, how does this connect with being righteous? Well, many of us, we are very, very creative when it comes to accomplishing things that we want. If we want to accomplish something, we will go to the ends of the earth. We will accomplish that thing at any length, right? Like, if you need to get a job and you need to fly out for an interview, you'll fly out for the interview. You'll go. You have a great opportunity, a great chance, a great professional opportunity for yourself, and they say, hey, we'd love to interview you in person. Can you come next Monday? You're already looking at flights. You know what? The flights are super expensive, but you're like, hey, it doesn't matter, because if I get this job, it's totally worth it, right? Everyone agree? Is that like a real scenario? Okay. Now let's change the story a little bit. Instead of the potential employer calling you, it's like your mom or dad, and they live in a different city, and they're like, we really miss you. Can you come visit us? And you're like, I don't know. Flights are so expensive. right? And it's even worse if they live here in Dallas. They're like, hey, do you want to get dinner? And you're like, there's traffic right now. It's interesting, right? So when it comes to the things that we don't, when it comes to those, sometimes the discomforting things or the things that are not high ranking for us, or let's change the narrative, right? Maybe you're a parent and your son or daughter is like, Dad, are you coming to my soccer game? Mom, are you going to be there? Dad, do you want to come swimming with us? Mom, do you want to go? And you're like, I have to do that. The chicken has to thaw. What is the chicken thawing? How does that involve you? Like, you can go out, right? But where there is a will, there's a way. And where there is no will, there's no way. That's the mafhum al-mukhalaf of that statement. We've all heard where there's a will, there's a way. Guess what? Where there's no will, there's no way. People will stay home. People will avoid. People will do that. They'll deflect and defer because they don't want to. So when it comes to things that we aspire to achieve, material goals, etc., man, we will be as crafty, as he says, as the fox. We will do this, we'll do that, we'll use points, we'll redeem points, we'll check our miles, we'll do that just to get there because it's so important for us. But when it comes to valuing the relationship and honoring those people that are in our life, the family that we have, all of a sudden it becomes very difficult. May Allah forgive us. It becomes very challenging, right? We'll tell somebody I'm busy when they, for example, want to check up, like a close family member or a friend. Hey, can you talk? I'm busy. And then it's just like scrolling through something mindlessly. Someone I was, with recently, I was spending time with them. They said that they heard like the most depressing statement ever from their kid, and I was like, what was it? What could be so because their son is young. So I said, what could your son have said that is so shocking and so sad? And the son basically said the equivalent of like, you love your phone more than you love me. Which, by the way, there's a University of Minnesota study, I think in like 2018 that was published, that said that infants start to release the stress hormone when they see their parents pull their phone out. And we're all guilty, right? It doesn't stop in infancy, right? It continues on with toddlers and with children and with preteens and teenagers and college students and your peers. How do you feel when you're talking to somebody and they look at their phone? How do you feel when you're trying to connect with somebody and they're like, yeah, keep going, I'm listening. We all feel a little bit hurt and upset. Now imagine a child that can't contextualize and understand what's going on, and they truly just believe that they are worthless, right? And so they tell their dad, you love your phone more than me. And the kid wasn't crying. He wasn't like making a big deal. He just said it almost like it was a reality. Baba, you love your phone more than me. And my friend was like, that was a huge wake-up call. So the reality is, Omar here is saying, piety, it's not always easy. Being righteous at home with your siblings, in fact, the truth of the matter is it's really difficult because the more you see somebody, the more opportunities for failure there are, the more opportunities for disappointment there are. And it's really challenging because there's so much history. But that's exactly why Omar is trying to say you have to be as clever as you can to try to achieve this goal. You can't give up so easily. Don't give up easily. Be clever, be crafty, be persistent. The fox doesn't give up and neither should you. Just like you get what you want when you want it, make your relationships at home as important to you as the ones that are outside of your house. May Allah Ta'ala give us tawfiq and give us success. Okay? So he says that a person then should try to do this. Now, the next question that a person asks that comes to the mind, right, when you have these relationships, and especially when, many of us here are going to hear this and we'll feel like inspired. Okay, I'm going to go home and I'm going to tell my parents, or I'm going to tell my siblings, or I'm going to try to reconnect, or I'm going to do the right thing. So you're going to go and you're going to like text your cousin or your brother or whoever, and you're going to be like, hey, assalamu alaikum, wa alaikum salam. I just want to let you know that I've been thinking about you and I miss you, right? I love you. And the person will be like, what's wrong? What do you need, right? And they're going to, if everyone in here, like, for example, pulled out your phone and texted your mom or your dad or your spouse and you said, hey, I love you, they'd be like, are you okay? Right? That would be probably the higher percentage of response. So the next hadith, or the next narration that he includes in here, is a narration that deals with the rejection that a person receives when they try, when they're clever, when they're persistent, like the fox, but there is no reciprocation. So what happens when you say, I love you, and the person doesn't say it back? What happens when you are kind and you're forgiving or you're generous or compassionate and the person doesn't reciprocate that? How do you handle that? So Anas ibn Malik, he said that he heard the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam say, Inna Allah la yadhlimu al-mu'minuna or al-mu'mina hasanatahu. He says, this is a general principle. It's an important theological belief. This is something that every person has to believe. If you're Muslim, it is essential. It is critical that you know this. He says, Inna Allah la yadhlimu. Allah will never oppress. Or in this, the verb translates more as, Allah will never cheat. Who? Al-mu'mina hasanatahu. Allah will never take away or devalue or not count the good that a believer does. Every single thing that you do, Allah knows it. And this is a really important thing to understand, because we live in a world, and we see this, we live in a world where if we feel like something was not perceived and appreciated, that it didn't truly happen. Sometimes it even gets really funky, right? You do something nice for somebody, they don't realize it, and they don't realize you did it, and you're like, how can I tell them that I did it? But I don't want to tell them I did it because that's weird, right? Hey, do you like that gift? Yeah, I love it. Man, whoever got it for you must know you really well. You know, like, you have to insert yourself into the conversation somehow. Even to the point, subhanAllah, we're so obsessed with like the measurement of success that I know people that are like, man, I can't work out today. It's like, why? It's like, well, my Apple Watch is dead. It won't count my calories. And I'm like, are calories dependent on your Apple Watch? Or do they get, you know, like, is this what's doing it? Well, if it's not measured, then it didn't actually happen, right? If Apple did not tell me I worked out, I didn't work out. No, right? That's a very deep level of attachment to the culture of measurement, okay? Now, the beautiful thing is that the measurement that people have of each other will always fall short. You know, I'll tell you this. I'll give you, last night we talked about this at Heartwork a little bit, and I'll say it here very clearly. You want to have a principle or a belief that's going to save all of your relationships in life? Yes or no? Can I tell you this? This is what I was told. You will never be appreciated the way that you deserve by anybody. I know, I'm sorry. You will never be appreciated the way that you deserve. And you want to know the second part of that statement? Are you ready for the second part? The second part is, you also fail to appreciate people the way they deserve. Because you're human, they're human, and human beings by definition are naqis. We are deficient people. How many of you have thanked somebody, how many of you have thanked your parents for all that they've done, or thanked your children for the gift what they've given you, or thanked your siblings or your friends? We've all fallen short. And we'll continue to fall short. So yes, you will be overlooked. Yes. You will do something for somebody and they will not understand it. Yes. And guess what? You've done the same thing to other people. The only one that appreciates you for everything that you do is Allah. He's so different. He's not like us. And the more that we expect to be appreciated by people, it's just endless disappointment. Endless. We're looking for gratitude in all the wrong places. But Allah, right? He's a shakur. He's the one who is infinitely appreciative of even the smallest thing that you do. And He knows it. He knows it. He knows, وَهُوَ يَعْلَمُ مَا فِي الصُّدُورِ. He knows what's in your chest. He knows the constriction you feel when you're making the right choice in a tough situation. He knows the tightness you feel when you're avoiding that sin that you really, really want to indulge in because you know that you don't want to disappoint. He knows everything. He knows when you give that money and you're not sure if you even have it to give it in the first place. He's aware of all of that. The people that you're expecting to be appreciated from will never be able to do it. So just give up. Give up and be happy with less. Be happier with just knowing that Allah will appreciate you. That's all you need. Right? So he says, "Inna Allah la yadhlimu al-mu'mina hasanatahu." Allah will never, ever, ever let any of your good deeds be cheated away from you. No one's going to show up on the day of judgment and be like, "Oh Allah, I did that really good thing and you didn't see it. You didn't count it." In fact, you're going to show up on the day of judgment and Allah is so perfect and we are so imperfect, you're going to forget a lot of the good that you did, and Allah does not forget it. So it's going to be present before you, and just like we read about in the Quran, the person they'll be shocked and they'll say, "What? There is nothing missing from this book. It has everything, big and small. Every single thing I did." Normally we read that ayah in a negative context, which is true. Every sin will be counted too. But think about it in the positive context. Allah will have every moment that you thought no one even remembered. You will forget it because we tend to forget things we don't think people care about. How many times have you held the door open for somebody out of the goodness of your heart and you can't even remember it? Can you remember it? You don't remember what store, what day, when, who they were, what they looked like. You just did it. That's a sincere deed. That's a sincerely good deed. Allah remembers that, and He wrote that down for you. He had it written in your book. So He says, Allah Ta'ala will never ever cheat a believer with their good actions. And then He continues. He says, يُثَابُ عَلَيْهَا الرِّزْقَ فِي الدُّنْيَا. He says, Allah, as a result of that goodness that you did, you think that it didn't get you anywhere? You think that didn't accomplish anything? No, it did. يُثَابُ عَلَيْهَا الرِّزْقَ فِي الدُّنْيَا. It actually gave you... Sorry, 1 second. The robot vacuum's starting. I'm going to send it home. He says that Allah Ta'ala, as a result of that good that you did, He provides for you the provision that you seek in this life. So sometimes you get something you didn't expect. Sometimes like there was maybe some difficulty that you were anticipating that Allah removed from you somehow. Or you just get something that you didn't deserve, like you just randomly got some gift or some refund or some upgrade, or I don't know. In those moments, the believer, right, the non-believer or the person who's not thinking of Allah is thinking like, "Oh, this is just like a mistake, or this is this and that." No, there's no mistakes with Allah. There's no mistakes. Allah sends rizq in the form of many ways. Sometimes He sends it by holding things back from you, like illnesses, accidents, things that might... Or sometimes He sends it in the form of provision that is a addition to your life, right? Sometimes there is addition by subtraction, sometimes addition by addition. So whenever something good happens or something is put into your life, or Allah saves you from something negative in your life, realize this is Allah rewarding me in part for the thing that I did that no one else even cared about. Sheikh Sha'rawi has a really funny story where he talks about sincerity, ikhlas. And he tells a story where this man cooked dinner for his friends and they all started complimenting his wife. So he cooked dinner and they were like, "Your wife is an amazing cook." And he corrected the first 3 times. "No, I cooked it." And they were like, "Oh, interesting." The second guy says the same thing. "Please, compliments to the chef. Wow, your wife is an incredible cook." He said, "Yeah, she is, but I cooked this." Third time, same thing. Fourth time, he's like, "Yes, compliment her. She did it." Like he just gave up. And Sheikh Sha'rawi said he wasn't sincere until the last one. Because the last one was where he said, "I don't actually care who gets credit. The whole point is that you want your guests to have a nice meal. It's irrelevant who gets credit," right? And we have these battles inside of us, in part because of the postmodern corporate structure that we're so used to, where you need credit in order to promote and to work and to succeed at life. But that's a corporate paradigm. Think about your spiritual life. You don't want to translate that stuff. Not everything goes back and forth, right? Some things, yeah, punctuality, honesty, integrity. These are things that can flow freely between your faith aspirations and your professional aspirations. But when it comes to professional aspirations, go ahead, post to your LinkedIn, right? Post that certification, right? Get your raises, get your promotions, donate to Roots. But when it comes to your religious aspirations, hide it. Hide those things. Keep as much as you can between you and Allah. The professional side, tell everybody. The personal side, the spiritual side, just tell Allah. And only expect good from Allah. So he says, as a result of that, the rizq you have in this dunya is the dividends of the goodness that you did. So think to yourself, don't ever think that you're not being rewarded for the good that you've done. Don't ever think that. And don't expect rewards from people. Allah in Surah Al-Insan, He talks about the people of piety. And those people who take care of people, they feed them, they give them food when they're hungry. And He describes their statement. They say something so beautiful. They say, إِنَّمَا نُطْعِمُكُمْ لِوَجْهِ اللَّهِ لَا نُرِيدُ مِنْكُمْ جَزَاءً وَلَا شُكُورًا. What an amazing statement. The people who, they take care, they feed, and then when they're asked about what compensation they want, they say, إِنَّمَا نُطْعِمُكُمْ لِوَجْهِ اللَّهِ. We've only fed you for Allah. That's it. لَا نُرِيدُ مِنْكُمْ جَزَاءً وَلَا شُكُورًا. We don't want any reward nor thanks from you. And they're not being rude, like we don't want your thanks. They're saying that's not why we did this. The Arabs have a beautiful saying. When someone says thank you, they say, La shukra ala wajib. Don't thank me for something that I have to do. Right? So if you do something nice for somebody, you send them food, thank you so much. La shukra ala wajib. Don't thank me for things that are obligatory. I have to take care of you. I'm your brother. I'm your sister. I have to do this, right? The assumption is I'm not doing this for any sort of recognition. And it's tough because we've become a society that is really, really intoxicated by favorites and likes. Right? I remember when Instagram was floating out the idea of taking away the like button. Yeah, there you go. And all these people were like, no, what will I live for? How will I know that my outfit was fire? Like how? It's not enough that I feel it. I want everyone else to reaffirm that for me. Right? We live in a very strange era. And I'm not using that word ironically. All right? We live in a very strange time where we only feel satisfied if people tell us we should feel satisfied. Our own satisfaction is not enough. We need other people to acknowledge the thing that we have in order for us to feel like it's good. That's actually childish. My 7-year-old son and 5-year-old daughter, that's how they behave. And it's okay for them. They're not mature yet. They still have a lot of learning to do. They come back from a vacation. People say, hey, Assalamu alaikum. They're like, I went to the Real Madrid stadium. Why are you telling everybody? Aren't you just happy enough that you did it? No, you need to know. Look at my jersey. I bought a new jersey. Stop telling everybody. And with it's a kid, it's cute. Everyone's like, mashallah, mashallah. But adults, we're like that. We are like that. Assalamu alaikum, how are you? Good, I just got back from vacation. I didn't ask where you came back from. And I'm happy for you, but just enjoy the vacation. Cameras eat first, right? No one touch the food. Cameras eat first. We have to be really, really careful. We might think it's harmless, and you know what? Inshallah, we're not getting sins for this stuff, but I want you to think of what it does. It warps us. It makes us feel like we can't truly be appreciative, right? And then that translates into everything. I'm not going to go on this because we can keep going forever, okay? And then Allah Ta'ala, and then the narration continues, and He says, وَيُجْزَى بِهَا فِي الْآخِرَةِ. And this is the really, really important one. And Allah Ta'ala will continue with those sincere deeds that were done, that nobody noticed, that nobody thanked you for, that nobody recognized, right? The thankless deed. The thankless deed. Allah will not only, He's not only so generous that He will give you in this life, no, He'll also give you in the next life. You'll get both. That's why we say, رَبَّنَا آتِنَا فِي الدُّنْيَا حَسَنَةً وَفِي الْآخِرَةِ حَسَنَةً وَقِنَا عَذَابَ النَّارِ. That dua is so powerful. We recognize that Allah is not limited, nor is He stingy, nor is He cheap. No, Allah is unlimited, He is generous, and He loves to give. So Allah rewards your sincerity in this life, and you show up again, and He'll say, here's your reward. And you say, oh Allah, you already rewarded me. You already gave me for this. And Allah will say, what? You think I can't give you again? Sincerity is so powerful, the reward carries you from this life into the next life. So we ask Allah to make us sincere. And we ask Allah to give us sincere deeds. And this hadith, what does it do now? What does it do? Let's go back to the chapter. The chapter is what? The chapter is being righteous at home. Okay? And part of being a family member is not being thanked. Right? Can we agree? Yeah, there's a lot of nodding heads, right? Part of being a family member is not being thanked, in part because familiarity with somebody breeds a certain level of comfort. So like you bring someone home food, and by the way, this is not prophetic. I'm not preaching this. I'm just saying it's like a fact of life. The Prophet ﷺ, he talked about thanking people, even those that you're the most close to. Okay, so the prophetic ideal is you're thankful to everybody. This, just because this is like a natural disposition doesn't mean it's ideal. It's where we are, right? Like sleep is natural, but Fajr you have to wake up, okay? So just because something comes naturally doesn't mean you want to stay there. But the reality is familiarity breeds a sense of taking someone for granted, entitlement. So somebody, for example, cooks dinner. Like how many of us have thanked every time a family member did something nice for us if a stranger or friend did the same thing and we would have thanked them, right? The friend gives us a ride home. We are like, thank you so much. Our family comes to pick us up. We're like, you were late, right? From the airport. Friend comes, was 5 minutes late. Don't worry about it. I got time. Family comes, you're like, we're ETA. You said 7:50, it's 7:51. ETA, right? The thanklessness is real. Now, and then that puts pressure on the person. You see, when we're thankless to people, we test their sincerity. It's not good. We make it harder for people to be sincere because we're pushing them off the edge. They're like, you know what? I should have done this anyways. Not everybody is strong enough to deal with it. It's really tough. So the best thing is when you feel that irritation, remember, you're removing, your patience will be rewarded, and you giving the person to be sincere will also be rewarded. Giving them the chance to be sincere will also be rewarded, right? So the meals that we've gotten, the rides that we've received, the things that the words, the compliments. If somebody said, hey, thank you, you look good, hey, mashallah, this. If it's someone in our house, we don't weigh it as heavily as if it's someone outside. Right? Gar ki murgi dal barabar, right? You guys understand? You got enough desi? Okay. Yeah, you get it. Right? The famous desi saying. The famous Urdu saying. That chicken at home is like eating lentils outside. And how many of us have done that? How many of us growing up, there was food at home and we chose to eat something outside? And now, just because Whole Foods and all the influencers are telling us, don't eat food outside, eat at home. We're like, yeah, this is actually it. This is what it's about. And your mom was like, you're crazy, actually. For 20 years, I was begging you to eat at home, and you chose Taco Bell over me. And now, all of a sudden, you know, the mother that you didn't eat her food at home, now she's the grandmother to your children. She's like, let me feed them. Or let me take them out for pizza. And you're like, no, Mom, we don't eat food outside. And your mom was like, all you did was eat food outside. Right? And now you're not letting me feed my grandkids with some pizza? What's wrong with you? Right? We have this like deep cognitive dissonance, subhanAllah. So realize that at home is where the thanklessness is felt the most. And what leads to parents and children? What leads to siblings? What leads to divorce? What leads to spouses? What leads to this? The number one thing is thanklessness. I've never met a family that was so grateful to each other have problems. I've never seen it. And when I say grateful to each other, I mean bilateral. I mean both ways. Not just kids grateful to parents, but parents grateful to kids. You know, like being able. I was traveling with some friends one time. They have young kids. Everybody always talks about, oh, young kids, travel, it's torture. Traveling with kids is just parenting in a different city. It's like, okay, right? Whatever gets the likes, right? Going back to that. And subhanAllah, I remember one time I was with some friends who were traveling, and their kids, mashallah, had like a smooth morning, no arguments, no fights, whatever. And the mom went to the kids and was like, thank you guys. You guys were awesome this morning. And I was like, that's so strange. But it was amazing to see a mother thank her child. And what do you think that child did? Like smile, biggest smile. What do you think that child now, what became their goal? I want to repeat that moment over and over again. Positive reinforcement, right? I want to repeat that. I want to have mom do that again. That felt so good. I want to have dad and mom thank me again and again and again. So the thankfulness is not limited to the elders or the youngsters or the men or the women or this. It's everybody. increase gratitude in your home. And as a result of that, the deeds of sincerity will be easier and will flow like water. We ask Allah to give us tawfiq. Okay, we'll do one more inshallah. Yeah, subhanallah. Okay. So this last narration, so these are all, by the way, under the chapter of piety at home, and it's all under the ayah that we're talking about. So these are all the people who are describing this ayah. Inna alladhina qalu rabbuna Allah thumma istaqamu. So this is all a description. A scholar by the name of Muhammad ibn Suqa, he said that Muhammad ibn Munkadir, he said that this righteousness that Allah is describing in the verse is that this person, their primary concern. Okay, so what's your primary concern in life? You know, everybody has a different set of things that they're worried about. Generally speaking, right? Usually it has something to do with your profession, your occupation, being able to provide for yourself and your loved ones. Then maybe it's like your health and your faith and these things, right? So we have a list of things. But typically, the short-sighted person, all of their concerns start and end with them, like in their own life. And then one of the signs of like a sincere person or like a really good person is that their concerns don't stop with them. They go beyond themselves. So I'm concerned about my family, my brother, my siblings. I'm concerned about my friends. We describe these people as being what? Very good people. The person who cares about their friend is such a good person, right? So one of the traits of a person who is really, really good and is really virtuous is described here, that they're concerned not only about themselves, not only about their family, but about their progeny, their lineage. And he says that the piety that Allah is describing here, Inna Allah la yusliha bi salahil abdi waladahu wa walada waladihi. Subhanallah. He says the righteousness and the uprightness of the person is directly built upon how concerned they are about their child and their child's child in terms of what? Their iman. And this is so true. It is so true. Many people, right? Religion is kind of on the back burner because there are many things that they put forward at that stage in their life. So when you're like a teenager, what's the thing that's the most important in a teenager's life? Friends, right? Friends, okay? And then after the person kind of moves on a little bit, high school, then college, it becomes friends, but also now academics. And then towards the end of college, into like the end of undergrad, and then professional career or grad school, right? Then it's what? Your career. And it's climbing that career ladder. And then now you have a job and you're working, and you kind of have some the income. And then you start thinking about marriage. And then you find somebody, you get engaged, and then it's planning the wedding. And then after you get married, then it's like, okay, now it's us. It's our time. Tulum, here we come, right? And then after Tulum, here we come, you have a kid. And then the kid says, Baba, who's Allah? And you don't know how to answer. Baba, why do we pray? How do I pray? How do I read Quran? And you're 30, and you're realizing you're not that far ahead of that child who's 5. And that is a repeatable story over. And by the way, no shame in a person starting at all. Welcome home. This is Roots, right? But it is a reality. And what it shows is that we didn't care. For 28 years, we didn't think about that. We didn't. And if we don't step in at that moment, then what we fail to realize is the Islam that means so much to us, even if we didn't invest in it, it means a lot to us, right? Islam is so beautiful. It's so powerful. The Muslim Ummah might not even know how to read Al-Fatiha, but they love Allah and His Messenger. And that's beautiful. But you know what? Beyond that beauty, if we don't know how to transmit this faith to the next generation, we might be the last of this generation of this faith. Does that make sense? If we can't meaningfully, and I was actually, subhanAllah, one scholar I was studying with, I asked him, I said, Sheikh, what led you to study and to teach? And he said, I realized if I didn't know how to answer the questions of students, I couldn't answer the questions of my children, right? Because the reality is all questions are going to be the same. Why do I have to believe in this? Why do I have to do this? Do I have to pray? What happens if I don't pray? Why is Allah doing this? Why can't I have this? Why can't I do this? And we have to be prepared and we have to be ready to be able to answer those questions, right? So he's saying here, your righteousness is determined by what? How seriously you're considering the faith of your progeny moving forward. And it's dependent upon you. It's dependent upon you. You are a link in that chain. You are the critical link in that chain. And he says, when a person has that piety in themselves, and then they start to try to impart that piety to the next generation, their children, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala preserves the light in that house, the barakah in that home. He places blessings in that house, and this is amazing. And Allah, as a result of that home, right? So now I want you to imagine how light works. You have a home and it's surrounded by all these other homes, and there's one family, one mom, one dad, right? The kids in there, and the mom and dad are trying their best every night. Okay, Qul hu Allahu ahad, Allahu samad. And you think what? This is so funny for those of you who have kids and you're doing like your bedtime du'as. You're like, all right, guys, du'as. Okay, Allahu la ilaha. And the kids are like, oh, Allah. And they're making all these mistakes. And in the front of your head, for the first time, it's cute. It's like Instagram worthy. You're like, look at this. My kids are reading Quran. By the seventh night, you're like, I'm tired too. Just read your du'as. Go to sleep, right? And you slam the door. You're like, read your du'as. But subhanAllah, the narration says that as a result of that, Allah Ta'ala wa yahfaduhu, that Allah Ta'ala will protect these people by this type of devotion, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will also protect the houses surrounding this house, even if those houses don't have it. Like, we talk about being a good neighbor. Like, your practice of taking care of the faith of your children is being a good neighbor, right? Subhanallah. And we think about this. The Muslim is a good neighbor in so many ways, right? We share food, we take care, we shovel driveways, we cut grass, we do this, we do that. We help watch their house when they're traveling. Like, the Muslim should be so trusted in a neighborhood that if anybody on their street needs something, they know that the Muslim family is the one to watch, right? And if you've had a good neighbor, you understand the value. This is a prophetic thing, by the way. The Prophet ﷺ, he actually talked about the rights of neighbors. He said that Jibreel used to come down and tell me about the responsibilities of neighbors so much that I thought for sure there was going to come a time when we talked about inheritance and the will that he was going to talk about the category of your neighbor. It's not just your children that get your money. Your neighbor gets some too. He said, I thought for sure that when we talked about inheritance, the neighbors were going to be included. So Islam is not, it doesn't forget about that relationship. In fact, it's a really, really critical piece, right? Being a good neighbor is not limited just to the material benefits. There's a spiritual benefit. There was a video I saw online that was really funny where there was a person who was saying, like, the whole plane was scared through turbulence and nobody thanked me because I read Ayatul Kursi and I'm the one who saved us, right? And everyone was joking, like, haha, but there's some truth to that. There's some truth to that. Like, sometimes the relationship that one person has with Allah can save the entire room. Just because that one person has it. The story of Musa is so powerful. Musa alayhi salam is standing there in the drought, and they're calling out to Allah, begging Allah, begging Allah, begging Allah for rain, and no rain comes. And then Allah sends to Musa revelation, and he tells him that there's one person in this gathering that has such a sin, and they are the reason why I'm not sending rain. One person. So they committed this sin, and I'm holding back the rain because of them. So Musa makes an announcement. And he goes, listen, I don't know who you are, but one of you has a sin, and Allah has told me that because of that sin, He's not giving us rain. You need to leave us. For the good of everybody, you have to leave. So everybody, of course, is like thinking, but there's one person that knows that, like, this is me. And that person is standing there in the middle of this large crowd of people. And they're thinking to themselves, what have I done? And then that person, their heart turns to Allah and they say, oh Allah, please, don't make me do this. Just forgive me. You can forgive me. Please forgive me. If I have to leave in front of everybody, they'll know I'll never be able to come back. I'll lose my community. I'll lose please, oh Allah, just forgive me. Let me have this forgiveness in silence. Save my dignity. And the moment this person's heart says this, the narration says, it begins to pour. Rain falls. So Musa, he calls out to Allah and he says, oh Allah, this person is so special. Nobody left. So clearly, right, they did something with regards to their sin. They didn't leave and you let it rain. Can you please tell me who this person is? So that I can go and like seek their dua, because they clearly are a special person. And Allah says, oh Musa, I did not reveal to them, the sinful person, did not reveal to them or to you who they were when they were in a state of sinfulness. I'm not going to tell you who they are now that I've forgiven them. Like, their secret is with me. So if we believe that one person's tawbah can bring rain in a drought, do we not believe that one person's righteousness can benefit the whole neighborhood? Right? Like, your illumination goes beyond your landscaping. It goes beyond the lights on your home. Your illumination is the nur you bring. Right? And this is what makes Muslims, no matter where we go, we have to be special people. Right? All of the Islamophobia, everything that we feel that we hate, the only way that we're going to win is if we bring this nur to people's lives, however we can. And it's hard because you can't always be perfect. It's hard. But your job is to do what you can when you can. At work, at school, show people what Islam is. Let them feel it. They won't listen to what it is until they felt what it is. Let them feel it. And remember that even in the deeds that you consider to be totally glossed over, totally ignored, totally unseen, Allah knows that they're there, and the nur that you have, the barakah that you have, will spread as a result of that. We ask Allah Ta'ala to give us tawfiq. We ask Allah Ta'ala to accept from us and to allow us to be those people that are pious not only in public but in private, that we are good not only with our friends but with our family. We ask Allah Ta'ala to make us people that are concerned about our relationships with those who are closest to us. We ask Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala to make upright and to rectify any damaged relationships that we have. We ask Allah Ta'ala to always make us people that are forgiving and forgiven, and that we often look over people's mistakes and that people look over our mistakes. We ask Allah Ta'ala to allow the appreciation that He has for anything that we do to be enough for us, and that we don't seek that appreciation from other people more than we seek it from Him. We ask Allah Ta'ala to bless us with sincerity and to make us those who follow the path of His Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Subhanak Allahumma bihamdik, nashhadu an la ilaha illa ant, nastaghfiruka wa natubu ilayk. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Inshallah, we're going to be, we have a few events inshallah this week. I know we have brothers basketball on Friday night inshallah, so check the calendar for that. And I believe we also have Sisterly this Saturday. So just check our Roots calendar. You can check on Instagram or on the website, inshallah, if you want to come and attend those. We also have some really exciting stuff happening, inshallah, starting in August. So just be prepared for plenty more programming coming your way, bi'idhnillah. And we really appreciate, like as always, your support and coming through to the community events and keeping this community going and growing. Alhamdulillah. So barakallahu feekum. Inshallah, we have Maghrib at 8:39. So if anyone's staying here for Maghrib, then you can make your way to the Musalla. Otherwise, we're going to be open tonight until 10 with Suhbah. So you're more than welcome to stay and hang around. But at prayer time, most likely the barista will head over to pray. And then we'll be open till Isha, inshallah. Take care. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.